Hello, one and all. It's my view, Dr. Stone, chapter 231, A Future to Get Excited About. And it seems like Senku's won! Huzzah! He has convinced this one lone singular Medusa to stay behind, to abandon its people, to believe that life is about more than just existing. It is about living, it is about taking risks, and it is about getting freaking excited! Or so it would seem, but I'm not really sure if that's actually what happened in this chapter, because Senku had a rather lengthy conversation with Medusa, a private conversation that he didn't want anyone else on Earth to know about. And while we don't know exactly how long this conversation took, we know that we missed a big chunk of it. A chunk long enough where Stanley was starting to get worried, where he was starting to get nervous that negotiations had broken down. I mean, this is literally a negotiation to decide the fate of humanity. It is not going to be brief. There is no way it's going to be brief. So for Stanley to start wondering really makes me think that this chunk was fairly significant. And I think during that time, Senku basically told Medusa, okay, when the whole thing's over, I want you to put on this big show to scream out loud, oh, humanity is not worthy of our blessing. We shall abandon Earth and go to another planet and petrify all of you. For whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure why Senku would do that. Maybe he didn't want people fighting over the power of Medusa. Maybe he wanted people to be afraid of the Medusas, to always wonder, oh, what if Medusas come back for us? What if they attack Earth again as sort of a threat to keep humanity moving forward, to keep the march of progress moving onwards, so that the people don't get complacent, so that they keep, fighting for the power of science? I could see that. I definitely could see that. So yeah, my big theory for this chapter is that Senku just tricked all of humanity into thinking that the Y-Men tried to attack them only to run away, when the truth is the Y-Men and Senku reached some sort of agreement where they decided on something. Again, I'm not entirely sure what it is they negotiate on. I mean, Senku is the one that controls all the satellites, so it'd be fairly easy to convince humanity, oh, the Y-Men left, they aren't coming back, when really they just went to, the dark side of the moon, and they're going to stick around there until Senku's able to make Medusas again, or make new batteries for them. Though Senku did put special attention on the fact that Medusas are able to ignore gravity, which definitely interesting. I mean, not the fact they can, literally petrify anything in the world. Birds, fish, animals, anything. But rather the fact that they can negate gravity. I mean, if you can fully and completely negate gravity, that has a lot of potential. You could arguably create a device that produces an infinite amount of energy, and that solves, the world's energy crisis. Huzzah! Also, just flying cars and hoverboards and all that fun stuff. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential for a new scientific revolution if Senku can crack the secret behind anti-gravity. Anyway, though, the chapter starts off with a couple of color pages. First off, we have Senku on the moon, surrounded by the blue glow of Medusas. Oh, I love that. But not as much as the next page, because it is a freaking mashup of so many important moments from the series all put together, all on the same page. It is beautiful. It is so beautiful. First off, we have Senku and Byakuya sharing a bowl of ramen, just like they did before, he first went to space. And the ramen they're eating isn't, modern day ramen. It is the first ramen that Senku made in the Stone Age, the first scientific food that Senku made, which he used to recruit Ishigami Village to come work for him, to come help him advance the progress of science. And you can actually see Ishigami Village in the background with the giant glowing lights with the symbol of science on it. Then in front of that, we have the Soyuz capsule. In front of that, we have Kohaku. And then we have Chrome in his new post-American outfit, shedding a tear as he watches Senku and his father share one last bowl of ramen together. And then sweet, adorable little Suka. And I do mean little because Boichi decided to draw her in her chibi form, her child form, rather than her adult form. And I saw some complaints about that, but I do think I understand it. I mean, her child form is iconic. It is instantly recognizable. Even people who don't really know Dr. Stone all that well will see her and say, hey, that's a character from Dr. Stone. And from my wall right over there. So I get why Boichi decided to draw her in her child form. And then the Medusas decided to X-ray Senku and create a giant sculpture of him made out of themselves, which was terrifying. Truly and utterly terrifying. And it kind of reminded me of two things. First off, the Y-Man, the image Senku always had of the Y-Man every time he spoke. The creepy skeleton with the sharp teeth. That is fairly close to what this looks like, but also just really reminded me of Megamind. Anyone who's seen that movie before remembers the guy turned all of his drones into a giant image of his face, declare that he is a super villain because he has style. That's actually a pretty good movie. And then, like I said before, the wise men declare that humanity is unworthy. They do not have the intellect necessary to replicate our kind, and so they will abandon the planets, but before they go, they will grant us the gift of petrification one last time. Do not flee. And this just feels so discongruous with the rest of the chapter. It just doesn't really make sense unless this whole thing is a play that Senku is putting on for the sake of humanity. I mean, humanity has made it very clear they do not want to be petrified. The wise men don't necessarily understand why that is, but they should at the very least respect humanity's decision not to, be turned to stone. And the line, do not flee, I mean, it feels like that's just, there to cause tension and fear, to make people panic. But it doesn't really make sense for the wise men to say it, because where would they go? If the entire world is petrified, there's really no place you can flee, so why even bother saying, do not flee? In fact, why even bother announcing your intentions before activating yourself? Why not just trigger the petrification and be done with it? But then their whole effort to petrify all of humanity is stopped by Stanley threatening them with the bazooka launcher, which, is a fairly good threat, but I feel like they should have been aware that Stanley had that before now. I mean, they've been watching Senku. The one Medusa was with them the entire, ride up into space, so they must have a fairly good idea that Senku, brought along a bazooka launcher and was currently in Stanley's hand, so they shouldn't have been all that surprised it was there, or that Stanley was threatening them with it. Humanity has made it very, very clear that they do not want to be petrified, and they will fight back if you try to petrify them. But thankfully, Stanley doesn't actually need to fire it, because Senku proves that the stone axe is mightier than the bazooka net launcher thing. And he also reveals that he is, in fact, an incredibly sentimental person, and brought the first stone axe he made in the Stone Age all the way with him up into space. Oh, I love that. I love that. I also love the comparison. You actually see how Senku looked way back in chapter 1. It is like night and freaking day. I mean, seriously, go back and reread the first couple of chapters of the series. The change in art style is absolutely freaking dramatic. And with other than Senku reminds, the Y Man, hey, in 10 short years, I went from stone tools to landing on the freaking moon. Even though my species is so stupid, it took us 3,000 years to wake up from our stone slumber. If I can do that, if we can do that, we can do anything. We can even replicate the Medusas down the road. Which is a fairly good argument. Even if Senku is just saying that as part of his ploy to convince the rest of humanity that they should follow him to the new scientific age, the new scientific revolution. Also, Senku said 10 short years, which is interesting because I think it's more like 17, because let's not forget he was petrified for a couple of years as well. I don't think that's actually going into his own calculations of how long, it's been since he first woke up. Curious about that. Then we get an absolutely freaking amazing shot of the Y Men dispersing. I mean, seriously. Oh god, the detail in this image is just absolutely freaking insane. But anyway, though, if Senku wasn't actually lying here, his speech fell on deaf ears, and most Medusas decide to pack it up and head off to some other planet to find some other intelligent life. And Zeno was certainly looking upset here. I mean, that is straight up supervillain Zeno right there. He is really, really irked because he really wanted to use the power of Medusas to create, a new scientific age. Thankfully, though, one stays behind. One believes that it will be useful to humanity and wants to help it, even if it had to risk its own life to accomplish that. And then they bring the adorable little Medusa along with them, put a little receiver on the outside of it, and give it a face, which, oh god, that was adorable. That is absolutely freaking adorable. I love it. And I guess as long as, it's in a vacuum, it's able to communicate, stay conscious, and float around perfectly. So, yeah, it is a very interesting piece of technology right there. And as for, who exactly built it, it doesn't know. It has absolutely no freaking clue who its creator was, which, makes sense. If Medusas have been doing this for, a very long time, then it's very likely they have parasitized a lot of planets since their first creation. This Medusa might not be an original Medusa. It might have been made by the second, third, fourth, fifth, 30th planet they inhabited, and therefore it's never actually met its own creator, its original creator of its species. And I do think this is the right choice, even though I'm seeing a lot of people online complaining about it. Because, if they'd actually shown, oh, this is our founder, this is their culture, this is their lives, this is how they lived, it would just lead to a million more questions, and would make the Medusas less special in a way. I mean, if you've ever seen a horror movie, the most terrifying part of the movie isn't when you see the big bad monster. It's before it. It's when you don't know what's chasing you, when you don't know what's lying in the shadows. It's when your mind is creating its own definition of what the big bad actually is. so by keeping the crater of the Medusa a mystery, it's able to create this whole aura of mystery around it. And I think it's better than if they'd said, oh, I was made by Bob of the planet's Sam for reason XYZ. And of course, the device counters back saying, well, do you know who created you? And, that is a fairly good response. I mean, we have a fairly decent understanding of how exactly it is we came about, evolution, all that. But is there, something out there that triggered evolution? Is there a god that, set things in motion? Personally, I'm rather fond of the theory that life first arrived on Earth in the back of a meteor. Basically, it survived the trip through space somehow, some way, crashed on Earth, broke free, and then continued to live and thrive and evolve until eventually formed the perfect form that is me. Yes, I am God's gift to this world. And then just for one final time, the why man had asked, why? Why do you dislike being petrified so badly? What do you find so unconscionable about it? I mean, you're a living being. Shouldn't you want to survive? Shouldn't you want to keep living no matter what? And Senku finds that, rather funny because of all the Medusas, this is the one that volunteered to stay behind. This is the one that decided to risk its life to literally say, kill or destroy me, whatever you want, just to, keep moving forward, just to bring about this new scientific age. It is literally doing exactly what Senku did. It broke free from its stone prison, its fellow Medusas, and decided to actually experience life on Earth instead of just, remaining asleep on the moon for the rest of eternity. And thus they begin the journey back down to Earth and towards the final chapter of this series. Seriously, I cannot believe it. Next chapter is the final chapter of this freaking series. Oh, God above, I do not know what I'm going to do with my life once this series comes to an end. I mean, seriously, this is a fairly decent chunk of my channel. Most of my subscribers are here for my Dr. Stone video, and the most comments I get are on my Dr. Stone videos, so yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to happen to this channel after that. I'll figure it out later. But as for what I think is going to happen in the final chapter of the series, I do not know, because there is a lot of ground to cover for, proper epilogue of the series. And like I said before, I think Senku revealed that, he basically worked Medusa to create this whole play to pose them as the villains who were fleeing Earth. Oh no, we're never going to come back again for some reason. Not entirely sure why he'd do that, but that's the only reason I can think of for him to actually, go out of his way to make sure that no one on Earth could hear his conversation with the Medusas. After that, just epilogue, seeing, what everyone does, seeing the advanced science, seeing what Senku does with this one singular Medusa. I mean, like I said before, my guess is infinite energy. He's going to use it to create some sort of perpetual motion device that keeps producing more and more power, and use that to power the new scientific age, and eventually hoverboards and hover cars and flying everything. Oh, that'd be fun. That would be a lot of fun to see, especially for, the Ishigami villagers who have gone from, literal stone tools and fishing to sending people to the moon and are now going to experience flying cars. Oh, that's going to blow their mind. That is so going to blow their minds. I am also hoping to get some ships confirmed. I mean, Magma and Nikki, that's a couple I've been rooting for a very long time. And of course, then there's Senku and Kohaku, who have been, a ship ever since they first met. When Kohaku literally said, I think I'm falling in love with you. Seriously, that is such a manga way to introduce yourself to a guy. I love it. God, who else do we even have in the series? Oh, right, Luna. Not really sure what they're going to do with her. Kind of feels almost like they dropped the ball on her character a little bit, because it really felt like she was going to be important, but then, after she did the surgery on Senku, we didn't really see much for her at all. That's disappointing. Ryu is going to, basically take over the entire world. Maybe marry Francois, maybe marry the reporter, maybe marry both of them. I mean, Ryu wants, everything in the world, so I can definitely see him ending up with multiple women, multiple men, multiple, basically everyone. He wants everything. Dr. Chelsea and Sai, I mean, why not? They could work together as a ship. I could see that happening. Yeah, just a lot of possibilities. I mean, I really want to see what happens next to this world. Or I could see them, just really going next level and basically, starting next chapter. Oh, this is the tale of 100 years ago. The father of modern science, Senku, who went from Stone Age to the moon, and just have the whole chapter be someone from the future telling the story of Senku, what he accomplished, both, on the trip up to the moon and afterwards. That could be pretty interesting. That could definitely be interesting. God. There's literally just so many possibilities for next chapter. I'm not really sure what else to say about it, but please let me know down below. What do you think is going to happen in the final chapter of the series? I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover, and I'm fairly certain it was read online that's going to be like 29 pages, so more than a regular chapter, so they will have time to cover some of it, but probably not all of it. Also told by somebody that there's going to be like 7 color pages, which, if so, would definitely be impressive. I would love to see, 7 more color pages for this series. I honestly don't know what comes next. Oh, do you think we're going to get a sequel series, a spin-off, like Boruto? I mean, I know Boruto has kind of a bad reputation, but there is definitely some good in it, especially in the manga version of it, so I think that'd be interesting, seeing, where everyone ends up with, who they end up with, what their kids are like. Oh god, seriously, imagine the child that's produced by Senku and Kohaku. That would be something else right there. That would be a child that could literally destroy all of humanity. And a child of Ryu's would be, equally as terrifying. Regardless of who the mother is, any child of Ryu's would be absolutely and completely freaking terrifying. But please, let me know all this down below. Like I said, next chapter is the final chapter. And my goal is to do a reaction video to it. I mean, I want to share my initial thoughts with it with all of you. I might do another review after that. We'll see what happens in the actual chapter. We'll see if they announce, oh, we're getting a sequel series down the road or something like that. But let me know all this down below. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my new content. And until then, peace!